Chapter 8, Motivation and Engagement. Objectives. Differentiate between intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. Identify examples of motives that induce people to take action to accomplish important goals. Explain how motive others may be by meeting their lower and higher level needs. Outline how the concepts of reinforcement and equity apply to motivation. Describe the psychological and job design elements of empowerment and how empowerment continues to motivation. Identify factors that play a role in employee engagement. Summarize the elements necessary to create and nurture a motivated workforce. Motivation. So motivation, either internal or external to a person, that arouse enthusiasm and persistence to pursue a certain course of action. So it's not one thing, it's a couple of things, but it's internal and both external. And we're going to talk about the differences between internal and external. Motivation. Employee motivation affects productivity. Part of a leader's job is to channel employee followers' motivation towards the accomplishment of the organization's vision and goals. Leaders use motivation theory to satisfy followers' needs, engage high work performance. So the motivation of the followers, in some cases, it will come from internal, come from them. In many cases, it's coming from the leader. So the leader's got to motivate individuals. It's got to take the lead on how you get people to follow the organization's vision and goals. A simple model of motivation. So let's look at need. Need creates a desire to fulfill needs, and you see what the needs are. So you look at behavior, results and actions to fulfill those needs. Rewards, satisfied needs, intrinsic or extrinsic rewards. So you have a need, and then from the needs you get behaviors, and from those behaviors determines whether or not you get rewards or not. And how do you find out if those things are working like they should? It's through the feedback loop that comes back to the leader. Intrinsic and extrinsic awards. Intrinsic awards, internal satisfactions a person receives in the process of performing a particular action. So this comes from within. So some people who are wired such that I have my intrinsic rewards, I feel good when I achieve a goal or achieve results or accomplish a task or duty. Extrinsic awards, rewards given by another person, typically supervisors, such as pay increases or promotions. So these is when I do a good job, you do something for me, and you reward me in some capacity, whether it be recognition, award, pay, time off, or whatever. But those are extrinsic. Those are coming from someone else. Intrinsic are coming from you. So we look at needs of people and motivation methods, needs of people. So let's go look at conventional management first. So when you have conventional management, it's going to, first of all, meet lower needs of people, not higher needs, lower needs of people, and you have the carrot stick. So basically, I'm showing you the carrot and you'll do something. I have a carrot on the stick and you'll do something to get the carrot. It's a way of controlling people. So for someone who may be a micromanager or have people that they can't trust, conventional management would be more way to go. An adequate effort. They'll do a decent job because they know that they need to in order to keep the job. Now, if you flip and go on the other side, leadership, this is going to meet the higher needs. And when I say higher needs like self-worth, fulfilling, learning, feeling good about who I am and who I'm working with. Empowerment, you want to empower them to be able to do things, trust them to be able to do things. And employee engagement, you will engage them and they will engage each other. And it's not a control thing. And what you get out of that is when you do that is you get their best effort. So 4 categories of motives. So we have the extrinsic and intrinsic. So we have extrinsic, let's look at this. Extrinsic positive approach, rewards such as pay, bonuses, and praise. Extrinsic negative approach. So, I'm sorry, let's go back. Extrinsic positive approach, you see rewards and stuff. Now if you go to the bottom, you see intrinsic positive. Help people enjoy work and get a sense of accomplishment. So if we go to the negative side of it, we see extrinsic negative approach, threats and punishment. Intrinsic negative approach, tap into self-doubts and anxieties. So you see the negative and the positive. So if we look at the extrinsic positive approach, rewards and pay, extrinsic negative approach threatens and punishes people. Intrinsic, help people enjoy what their work, get sense of accomplishment. Intrinsic negative, tap into self-doubts and anxieties. So if you think about that, one is pleasure, growth, and the other one is pain and fear. So if you think about it, which would probably be the best? And which will probably be the worst? And which one would give you the best results? Obviously, it's obvious which one it would be. So we got the needs-based theories of motivation. So we've got three of them: hierarchy of needs, two-factor theory, and acquired needs theory. So the hierarchy of needs theory, Maslow's theory proposes that humans are motivated by multiple needs, and those needs exist in a hierarchical order. And here they are. So when you look at the needs order, so let's look at the very bottom needs. Physiological needs: heat, air, base salary. Safety needs: safe work, fringe benefits, job security. Belongingness needs: work groups, clients, co-workers, supervisors. Esteem needs: recognition, approval, high status, increased responsibility. Self-actualization needs, which is the highest. Opportunities for advancement, autonomy, growth, and creativity. So based on what Maslow is saying, is we have some needs that are higher than others. And according to him, self-actualization needs are the one that are most highest. And this is also when you look in terms of fulfillment of the job. The two-factor theory, hygiene factors. First dimension of Hegelsberg's two-factor theory involves working conditions, pay, company policies, interpersonal relationships. Motivators. Second dimension, two-factor theory involves job satisfaction, meeting higher level needs such as achievement, recognition, and growth. So you look at it, and one, you see the first one is, when you consider hygiene, conditions, pay, company policy, interpersonal relationships. So the things that you basically look at and say, you know what, these are the basic things that I need. And you look at the motivators, then you start looking at things such as the recognition, the recognition, achievement, opportunity for growth. So let's take a look at the two factors theory here again. It's, so we see area satisfaction in the blue background, area for dissatisfaction in the green background. So let's look at the area satisfaction. When you look at that, you see motivators: achievement, recognition, responsibility, work, and personal growth. Motivators influence the level of satisfaction. So what good leaders understand is, in order to get to this point right here, there has to be a certain level of satisfaction that people have. And motivators can influence the level of satisfaction because they can set the groundwork for it. I'm going to set this environment up, and I'm going to help drive a culture that's going to help people achieve, and I'm going to recognize them. They'll give responsibility and opportunity for personal growth. Now, on the areas of dissatisfaction, working conditions, pay, security, company policies, supervisors, interpersonal relationships, hygiene factors influence the level of dissatisfaction. When you have poor working conditions, it's hard for people to feel good about going to work when they work somewhere where it's poor working conditions. Pay and security, whether you have low wages and whether or not you have low job security. I mean, people getting laid off every 3 months. Company policies, do you have draconian or company policies that are outdated and they don't apply to today's working market? Bad supervisors. What kind of supervisors do you have? Do you have supervisors who are pretty much operating as overseers, or do you have supervisors who are operating as leaders of teams? Interpersonal relationships. If you have bad culture and you have bad interpersonal relationships in there, those are areas for dissatisfaction. McClelland's theory, which acquired needs theory, which proposes that certain types of needs, achievement, affiliation, power, are acquired during an individual's lifetime. So that means, during the course of somebody's lifetime, they are going to acquire achievement, affiliation, power, and these may not all come at the same time. But these are certain needs that people will got. Give you an example. Someone may have a need for power. Well, if they have a need for power, affiliation and achievement is fine, but ultimately everything they do is about the power. That's what they're looking for. So you can recognize them, give them all kind of awards, but if you don't give them any power, they're not going to be satisfied or happy. Acquired needs: need for achievement, need for affiliation, need for power. So when you look at the desire to accomplish something difficult, attain a high standard of success, master that. So this is basically going from one level of performance to another, maybe in a particular task or something. Need for affiliation: desire to form close personal relationships, avoid conflict, and establish warm friendships. People go to work to make a living, but at the end of the day, it helps when they have relationships with people at work. Remember, most of the time, people with folks that they work with more than they are their own families. So having close personal relationships helps in that situation. It also will help avoid conflicts, because people, if they like each other and get along, if they have conflicts, they'll work them out. Need for power: desire to influence or control others, be responsible for others, and have authority. I talked about that earlier. If somebody's got the need for power, there's nothing else you can give them that will substitute for that, because that's what they ultimately crave. Other motivational theories: reinforcement theory, expectancy theory, equity theory. Reinforcement theory: a motivational theory that looks at the relationship between behavior and its consequences by changing or modifying followers' on-the-job behavior through appropriate use of intermediate rewards or punishment. So when you think in terms of the reinforcement theory, this is where you say somebody does something and you want to reinforce that. Now there's two things. You can do it through positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. So behavior modification: set of techniques by which reinforcement theory is used to modify behavior. Law of effect states that positively reinforced behavior tends to be repeated, and behavior that is not reinforced tends not to be repeated. Reinforcement: anything that causes a certain behavior to be repeated or inhibited. Positive reinforcement: administration of a pleasant and rewarding consequence following the behavior. So one of the ones that I've always found to be really productive and helpful and useful is positive reinforcement. When somebody who's had a history of struggling and not getting things right or making mistakes and they get something right, bam, you go right there and tell them, I knew you could do this. And this was outstanding. You did a great job right here. And this is what I want to see you do with the other endeavors that you work on too. That's positive reinforcement. That's what he or she remembers. Now, the negative reinforcement is withdrawal of pleasant consequences on once a behavior is improved. So somebody's been doing something bad, and then you give them criticism. When they do something good, you stop giving them criticism. That's negative reinforcement. Positive punishment, imposition of unpleasant outcomes on the employee following undesirable behavior. A lot of times you find this is not usually when somebody makes one mistake, but usually a pattern of behavior where you have to resort to punishment. Extinction is withdrawal of a positive reward, meaning that the behavior is no longer reinforced and hence is less likely to occur in the future. So when you withdraw a positive reward because of something that somebody did and stuff, they get the picture. And so now you get them to not do that because they want to do something else so they can get another positive reward. Shaping behavior with reinforcement. So when we look at this, we see basically we have a slow work rate. Supervisor requests faster work. So if we go to the top, employee increases work. Praise employees, recommend pay and raise. Positive reinforcement increases likelihood that behavior will be repeated. Come right below that, avoid reprimands and negative statements. Negative reinforcement increases the likelihood that the behavior will be repeated. So again, positive reinforcement when they do something good, and stay away from the negative reinforcement because those are usually triggers other bad things. We go down to the bottom, we see employee continues slow work. Okay, at the top you got reprimand employee, make negative statements, punishment, reduce likelihood that the behavior will be repeated. So, but bottom, withhold raises, merit, pay raise, etc. Reduces the likelihood that the behavior will be repeated. So, depending upon what type of situation you have and who you're dealing with determines the type of reinforcement that you really want to try to use. Expectancy, a theory that suggests that motivation depends on individuals' mental expectations about their ability to perform tasks and receive desired rewards. So it's like what they think based on what I should be able to do. Individuals' mental expectations about what their ability to perform tasks and the desired rewards. So based upon what I do, I expect to get a certain type of outcome or reward for this. Key elements. So expectancy, performance. So you see effort and performance. Will putting effort into the task lead to the desired performance? So if I go and do this, will I get a certain thing? I may be expecting a certain thing to happen. Maybe when people in the past have done this and they got the result I got, they got a cash reward, and I'm expecting that. Performance outcomes. So when you look at will high performance lead to desired outcome? Well, bottom line is it may or may not, but that's what you're trying to determine. Will it lead to a high outcome? And value of outcomes. So are the available outcomes highly valuable? So if I do something really good and you give the outcome is you give me a paper certificate, that may not be what I was expecting. I was expecting a cash reward like everybody else got in the past. Equity award, a theory that proposes that people are motivated to seek social equity and rewards that they receive. So when you look at the equity award, this is basically, am I being treated fair? Am I being treated like everybody else who got this award? And if so, I view it as equity. If you treat me different than everybody else, if everybody else got cash awards for doing the same thing in the past, and I do it and I get a certificate, I will not view that as fair or equitable. Empowerment, power sharing, the delegation of power or authority to subordinates in the organization. This is when you have people who are competent and good at what they do and their experience. Then what you do is you delegate power and authority to them to do the things that they're qualified to do and experienced to do. This is empowering them, and now they're more vested in what they do. Psychological model power, ways to empower employees. Employees receive information about the company performance. Employees receive knowledge and skills to contribute to the company goals. Employees have the power to make substantial decisions. Employees understand the meaning and impact of the job. Employees are rewarded based on the company performance. So when you empower employees, you keep them in the loop. You tell them as much as you can. Utilize transparency. Let them know what's going on to the best of your ability. Allow them to give input about what they do and how they do it. This is how they have power to make decisions. They can make some decisions they should be able to make without coming to the leader for everything. Allow them to do that. Make sure they understand what they do has impact and how it affects the bottom line and the big picture. And make sure that when the company does good and is rewarded, that they get rewarded. Job design for empowerment. Job design, structuring jobs in a way to meet higher level needs, increase motivation towards the accomplishment of goals. So you look at this, do you have jobs that you need to tweak and restructure so that they are actually high level positions, meeting the needs of today and tomorrow, not today and yesterday? Well, when you do that, that gives people a sense of accomplishment of goals and stuff, and it helps them. Job characteristics model. Model a job design that continues the core job dimensions of skill, variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback to enrich jobs and increase their motivational potential. So are you looking at the job and saying, what are the characteristic dimensions of this job? Are they such that we can ultimately help motivate people, or do we need to change them? Do we need to rewrite the job description? And so that what they do, because it might be, and I'll give you a prime example. Somebody who's working on the job and using an old model, design, and job description that was written 10 years ago might not be necessarily the best to be using today. Job enrichment, motivational approach that incorporates high-level motivators into the work, including job responsibility, recognition, opportunities for growth, learning, and achievement. I like to look at this as a learning environment. You help people go and grow. Giving them responsibility, recognize when they do things, and make sure they have opportunities to continue to go and grow through learning, mentoring, and coaching. Job characteristics model. So you got the core dimensions, you got critical psychological states, and personal and work outcomes. So we look at the core dimensions with skill, task, identity, and task significance. So you see what that goes to: experience, meaningfulness of the work, and that means something. So when you have these things, you bring in those core dimensions right there, then you experience meaningfulness of the work. Are they doing things that make sense, and they're doing things that you have experienced people doing that make sense, and stuff that they enjoy? You see autonomy, experience, responsibility for outcomes of the work. This is where you get the buy-in, because now you're letting qualified people who have the skills, the training, and the knowledge to be able to do certain things. Feedback, knowledge of the actual results. So now when you look at the feedback, you want to be able to say, based on our feedback, we know what we're doing is working. So you see, when you put them all together, core psychological states, it points to personal and work outcomes. High internal work motivation, high quality work, high satisfaction with the work, low absentee and low turnover, because people are actually in a good head space and a good physical space at work. Therefore, the personal and work outcomes are high. Ways to increase job enrichment. Increase job variety. Structure jobs so that an employee can perform a complete task from beginning to end. This teaches, that means I basically get to start something and get to see it to the very end. It gives them a sense of accomplishment. Incorporate task significance into the job. Well, bottom line is to make sure you incorporate the significance of what they do. Let them know how important that is, where it fits in the big scheme of things, versus them just saying, well, I just make a part. No, I'll make a part that actually makes this engine run. And this is how my part makes that engine run. Allow people autonomy for choosing how and when to perform specific tasks. So if you assign your people jobs and they've got several things to do, don't micromanage and tell them how to do all those, what order to do them in. Let them determine how they need to do things and when they need to do things. If you've got 10 people working for you, all 10 of them may not do it the exact same way, but they all 10 get the same result. Give them autonomy to work the way they want to in order to get the result. To the extent possible, design jobs to provide feedback and let employees see the outcomes of their efforts. So when you design the jobs, set things up where people can give feedback. And also, when you get the results of all the feedback, be willing to share that with the group as what the feedback says. One of the ways to get honest feedback is allow them to do it anonymously. Empowerment applications, dimensions used to classify empowerment methods. Extent to which employees are involved in defining desired outcomes. If you have, one thing about it, if you get people involved, the earlier you get people involved and allow them to give input when they have the knowledge and skills, then they're going to be involved in helping design defining desired outcomes. They'll be vested in that. Extent to which employees participate in determining how to achieve those outcomes. Okay, this is again allowing them to say, to participate and determine, giving you input when you're thinking about doing something. One of the things a good leader would do is say, I got 10 people who are experienced, so I'm thinking about doing this. I'm gonna sit down with them. This is what I'm thinking about doing. I'm gonna sit down with them and let them talk. We're gonna talk amongst each other about how might be the best way to get these outcomes. Engagement. People enjoy their jobs and are satisfied with their work conditions. Bottom line is, when they're engaged, they enjoy their jobs, they enjoy who they work for, they enjoy the organization. And if they're engaged, they're always looking to give input, and they're always trying to be helpful to make things grow. So they'll buy into what the company mission is, the philosophy, and they'll go along with trying to make things better for the organization. New ideas for motivation. Making progress in principle. Idea that single most important factor that can boost motivation. Positive emotions and perceptions during the work day is making progress towards meaningful goals. So this goes back to that positive reinforcement, establishing a good culture, and allowing people to establish good, close working relationships. This is how you're going to have people moving towards a positive goal instead of people working together. Even though they may not do all the same job, they all understand they're on the same team and working for the same goals. Thriving workforce in which people are not just satisfied and productive, but also engaged in creating a better future for themselves and the organizations. So this is why I said you had almost like a learning environment. People are not just satisfied and productive, but they're also engaged in trying to say, what, let's make this a better job, make this a better company, and for not only for today, but for tomorrow and into the future, and they'll help you actively do that. That concludes this chapter.